Hi everybody, this is Tor Storley and I am back with another video. And I thought in this video, I'll take a look at how we can get data sets from Kaggle using the Kaggle API so we can directly import it into our Colab Notebook, or if you prefer, Jupyter Notebook. So I prepared a Colab Notebook and I prepared a Jupyter Notebook to, in addition to showing you how to get the Kaggle dataset, I will also show you how you can style up your pandas data frames. And I also give a quick overview over the data table functionality in Colab that is available now. And so I hope you like this video, and let's get started. So I prepared this notebook in Colab, and I just call it Pandas DF for DataFrame Analysis and Styling. So what we'll do is we'll look at how you can get data sets directly from Kaggle, and then we'll do some styling over those data sets. In this case, there will be only one data set, but you can use it on any data set from Kaggle. So let's take a look at what the Kaggle data sets look like first. So when you first connect to Kaggle, you probably need an account. So I used my Google account to log in here. You'll end up on kaggle.com like this. And if you look over here, you can see there's data sets. And there's many different data sets, and you can search for them. The one that I decided to look at was this daily coffee price. So you just type in daily, and it starts showing up, if I can spell. So here's the daily coffee price. So when I click on this, you can see this is what it looks like. There's a size. It tells you about the different columns, and it gives some metadata about them, some distribution data. So once you land on this page, you can click this little three dots up here and say copy AP command. All right, so I copied that one. Here is the command you want to use for that particular data set. So it's important when you look for different data sets, when you get here, click here and make sure you say copy this API command, because depending on how they're structured, they might look differently, but you're going to need that in your notebook. So now that we got that one, let's go back to our notebook and see what needs to happen for this to work. So in order for you to use this API, you need to get a JSON token. In order to do that, you go in to your account. So you can see up in the top right corner here. So go to account, scroll down till you see API. And what you'll do is you'll create a new API token. You click on that like this, and it will download this kaggle.json file. Now, I already downloaded one before, so that's why you see this one here behind it, because there's a copy. So I'm not going to use this one, but if you look at this one, if I go to my folder and look at this, this is one I'm not going to be using, but I can show you this, what it will look like. It will look something like this. So you have your username and then there's some cryptic key, okay? So I'm going to have blur out this for the video anyway, so that's fine. All right. So once you get that JSON file, what you want to do is you want to upload that one to your Google Drive. So that's what we're going to do next. You go to My Drive. You can see I created a folder called Kaggle like this. And then I just took that downloaded file, the Kaggle JSON file, and I just uploaded it into this folder right here. So My Drive Kaggle on my Google Drive. So here you can see it. So that's the token I'm going to be using throughout this video presentation. So here I'm back in my Colab notebook. The first thing I want to do is I want to just clean out my environment because I've been working in here. So let me get rid of everything. So I'm going to go to runtime, and I'm going to go and say disconnect and delete runtime. So I'm going to get a total fresh start here. Second thing I want to do is I want to make sure that nothing is left over in this notebook. So I'm going to go to clear all outputs down here. All right, so now it should be ready. So here is what we're going to do first. We're going to install the Kaggle library so we can actually call our API using that. So let's hit Control Enter on my Windows machine. So we pip install that using the bang pip install Kaggle in a Colab workbook. So you can see here it's loading everything it needs. And once it's done, what I'm going to do next here, I'm going to actually mount my Google Drive here so I can easily talk to it. So you can do that using this command. Let me make it a little bigger so it's a little easier to read. All right, so from Google Colab, import drive, drive mount, and the drive I'm looking for sits under content drive. Okay, so I'm going to hit Control Enter. And I'm going to connect to Google Drive, and you're going to get this pop-up here. And in my case, I'm going to just choose my account, and it's going to ask me for permission, so I'm going to allow it. And then most likely, if you have a cell phone or something, you might get a notification from Google here that somebody is mounting your drive. So you can just probably ignore that one. So next one we're going to do is we're going to create a temporary directory that sits right here in this runtime, all right? Because my permanent file is sitting on my Google Drive, but this is my runtime. So as soon as I delete my runtime, that file will disappear, which is probably a good thing. So the first thing I want to do before that, I want to create a hidden Kaggle directory inside this runtime directory, if you will. So let me run that. So I'm going to make directory, tilde, // So I hit Control Enter, and there it goes. So as I went in and I created this. Now what I want to do is I want to copy my Google Drive Kaggle JSON file over into this working environment here, and you can do that with this command: bang cp space / content drive my drive Kaggle JSON. So this one really is pointing to wherever your JSON file is sitting on your Google Drive. And here I'm going to copy it into this temporary directory here, and that's the file name. So let me run that. So once I run this now, I can, if you want to, you don't necessarily have to do this, but if you're afraid of your files and you want to protect them, you can actually use this chmod 600 command. And when I try to figure out what this one is doing, I just asked ChatGPT, and you can see this is the answer that ChatGPT came back with. It says it's a Google Colab changes the permission of a file to allow only the owner to read and write to the file. So if you want to use this, you can. I put it in here so you have it. And here's that command that this one describes. So let me run that. Okay, so now we got a secure file. Now I want to download a data set from Kaggle. This daily coffee price, I went up here, and you say copy API command. So this is the one that we want to use. Here is that command that you just saw. So I'm going to run this now, and it should download that data set directly in to this runtime environment. So right now, if I refresh my folders over here, you should be able to see it, and there it is. That's that zip file. So the next thing is we want to unzip this. Now I noticed something that I got this error message because of the bang sign was right next to the word. I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but it gave me a Unicode problem. So I'm just going to make a space here. So it should work this way as well. So let me hit Control Enter one more time to unzip it. Okay. So now it inflated coffee.csv. And here you can see over here, it showed up. If you want to take a look at it, you can just double click on it. And over on the right hand side here, you can see here's the data. And by the way, this format here, as you can see with these pages and filter and all that stuff, this is a Colab feature. And I'm going to show you how you can actually do this without just clicking on it. So I'll do that in a little bit when we get further down in this notebook. So for now, let me just get rid of this file. So now you can see what it looks like. And right now, we're ready to actually do some work in this Colab Notebook. So the first thing we want to do is we import some libraries. So in case you're not too familiar with Python, you always bring NumPy and pandas in together pretty much because pandas is built on top of NumPy arrays and so forth. So, and the naming convention for these is very typical all over. Everybody uses that pretty much. NumPy is NP, pandas is PD. And I also bring in this matplotlib library. I don't think we're going to be using any of these, but I'll just put them in here so I can use this notebook later. And I don't think we're going to use this OS either. But anyways, you should be good just bringing in the first two, I believe. So the first thing I want to do is I want to read that CSV file that sits under content coffee, which is the one we just looked at over here. This one, I'm going to read it in right here into a pandas data frame. And what I want to do is I want to use an existing column as index because I don't see the need for creating one more column here with 0 through whatever number of records there are. So we're just going to use the date because that's unique. So that's the one we want to use for index. And then we're going to show the first 20 here using the head function. So let me run this. So here you can see this is what it looks like. This one is related to the interactive table functionality in Colab that we're going to be looking at in a little bit. Like I said, you could click on this thing and open this up so you can see here you have an interactive thing and it has several features. You can sort, as you can see, which is kind of nice. You can filter, so you can just go and search for something. Maybe I want to see wherever high price is 100 to 120. Okay, so as you can see here, the high is filtered by 100, between 100 and 120. So you do that, or you can filter by date, and you can search by all fields. So it's a pretty basic thing, and you can also copy this table. If you want to have more information, you can click here, this help, and it will take you to this sample notebook here that you can actually see how I came up with the stuff that I have in mind. So let me just get rid of this for now, and let me remove the output here. So here is how you can actually do it inside a notebook cell. You can say from Google Colab, import data table. Then you can say data table, and then the name of your data frame. In this case, I'm only taking the 21st rows, and include index false, and number per page is going to be the pagination. So when I hit this, you can see now it opens up as that type of data table that we just looked at. So it's already formatted as such. Okay, one more thing I should mention is that you can set this to number per row per page. You can set pagination directly in here inside this cell. You can also disable it like you see here. If you don't want to see it, you want to go back and use the native pandas data frame display. So when I hit this now, it's going to convert back to the original look and feel, but you still have this icon up here. So that's one way you can actually manipulate these tables a little bit, some kind of styling. This is built into Colab though, so it's not really styling pandas data frame. Okay, now we're getting into more styling features. Pandas have a styler object, and you can get to it by simply doing this data frame dot style. So let's just start doing some basic stuff here. Notice in this case, I'm using two styler objects. By the way, in case you didn't know, in Python, whenever you change lines, for example, like this, you might get an error if you do something like this. So one way you might have to do this is do this backslash like this to run this command. Another way you can do it to avoid those backslashes is you can simply put it inside a parenthesis like this. And that way it will run it without you have to put those backslashes, just like this. So either way will work for you. If you have a lot of code, it's kind of annoying to do those backslashes up every line, but otherwise you can do it like this. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the min values for these 5 top rows, and I'm going to set the axis to be 0. So I'm going to highlight by row. 1 is column. I'm also going to set the properties, and you have to prefix it with this quark syntax, and the color is going to be black. All right, so now let's run this and see what it looks like. So I'm going to do Control Enter, and here you can see it went in and it looked at the close and the volume columns because those are the ones that I wanted to see. the top 5 rows, or the top first 5 rows, I should say. So as you can see, it went by row and it found the min value here. So it finds the min, and then the other property I'm setting is all the text to black. So as you can see, so that's highlighted in this one. Okay, the next thing I want to do, I want to expand on my data frame a little bit by using an API call to get an exchange rate. So what I'm interested in, I'm going to go to this API, exchange rate API, and I'm going to convert it from US dollars to euro. And then I'm going to get the response back, and then I'm going to load the response into this data object. So let's run this cell. Okay, it goes on the internet, it came back with the data. And now what I want to do is I want to use that exchange rate that it came back from that API call, and I'm going to extract out the actual rate by referring to the, inside that JSON object, inside the info.rate. So in other words, the rate is the key I'm looking for inside that JSON file. Then I'm going to print it out so you can see what it looks like. Then I only want to use a certain amount of columns in my data frame, which is the open, high, low, and close. But I also want to add new columns to that data, the new data frame I'm going to create. And I just called it open euro, high euro, low euro, and close euro. So here I'm getting the existing data frame columns, and I'm putting it into this new data frame called df new. I'm taking the top, the first 10 rows. Then I'm creating a new column here in this new data frame, and I'm basing it on the old column, the existing open column. But I want to, for each value in that column, I want to calculate it using the euro exchange rate. So I'm going to multiply by the exchange rate. And then what I do is I create, because I want to see the euro columns in that data frame with a euro symbol in front of it instead of $sign. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the Unicode representation of that euro symbol. And you can get that by putting this U and doing the \N and then squiggly euro space sign. So here is my euro symbol right there. Then I'm using my new data frame and I'm going to style it. And this is the format I want to use. So for the existing columns, open, high, low, close, I want to have it in different decimals. So here you can see here I want it in 2 decimals, 3 decimals, 4, and 5. Okay, so that's what I want to do here inside this format. Then I have the euro, and I prefix it with a euro symbol plus the rest of this text here. So after all this is done, let's run it and see what it looks like. Control Enter. And as you can see, it printed out the euro exchange rate. $1 is worth 0.93 euros. So the euro is stronger than the dollar, in other words. Okay, so when you do this multiplication, you put the $signs in front. You can see it here. And you can see I had 2 decimals, 3 decimals, 4 decimals, and 5. And over here I had 5, 4, 3, 2 decimals. And I prefixed it with the euro $sign. So that's how you could style that particular output. So the next thing is we might want to get an idea about the data. So I can hit data frame describe method. And as you can see, you have the counts, was 10 of them. You have the mean, the standard deviation, and you have min, and you have max, okay, for each of these columns. You saw me do the precision up here like this with the 5 for the floating number decimal counts. There's another method you can use to get that precision. I want to use the format method of the style object. So you have the style and then you have the format. You can set the precision. In this case, I want a precision to be 3 decimals. You can also set 1,000 separator. So you can put anything you want there, whether you want comma or dashes or space or whatever. I'm putting a comma in, so I want to see my numbers with a comma separated for every 1,000. And you can also set, when it's missing data, you can give some text format here inside this format here. So what I'm doing here is I want to, in addition to just get the output here, I want to style it a little bit too. So what I do here, first I need some data that, these are just in the hundreds here, 121, 126. I need to make these numbers much larger so I can demonstrate this. So what I do is I take this data frame and I'm adding 1,000,000 to each one of those values here. So they become much, much bigger. So I'm creating this new data frame called df large. Then I going into this new data frame that has these numbers, but now adding 1,000,000 to them. But then I want to change some of these values to be missing. So I can actually see that this missing NA rep parameter works as well. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm just grabbing a little segment out of that data frame and I make it into not a number. So that's going to create some missing data. And then I'm grabbing the first 6, I'm styling it, and I'm applying this mapping here that's going to call this function that I created up here. And here is the props, meaning the properties that I want to affect. So the background color, I want it to be black. I want the fore color to be yellow, and I want to raise the size. And this is going to come in if whatever I'm passing in, each one of these cell values, if they get passed in and they are missing, then I'm actually want to format the cell. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm returning the properties if, and what happens when it passes this V here, it doesn't pass the text value, it passes the missing value. So in other words, it passes this one. So that's what I'm looking for. A NumPy, is it not a number for V that I'm passing in here? Then it will return the properties, otherwise nothing will happen. So let's see what this will look like when I actually run it now. So I hit Control Enter. And as you can see, it looks normal. Look at the numbers, how much bigger they are. And look at the 1,000 separator, the comma. And look at the 3 decimals I set in the precision. You can see it here. Here's the precision, 3,000 is. So if I wanted something else here, I could just do a dash maybe and run it again. See, now you can see that separated by a dash. So I want to keep it to comma. But now look down here. All the missing data now, the NaN values, those cells has been styled up using that function that I created up here. So that returns this black background color, yellow, and font size much bigger. So that's another way you can style your output here. Now, you can also style it based on HTML, CSS settings. So here I got a data frame. I'm grabbing the first 10 rows for that new one. I'm going to use the style object, and I'm going to set the table styles. So if you look at it here, I use selector method, and then I'm referring to different parts of like a regular HTML table. So for example, the TH stands for the header, column heading, and then you separate with a comma, and then you set the props, meaning the properties that you want to use for this particular HTML portion of the table. So here you can see for the headers here, I'm gonna be using yellow background, but I also have a level 0 column heading. That is the first row you're in when you see the table. So that's going to look a little bit different. It's going to be a white color. You can also format the index, which is the dates, by putting the dot index name. That will change the look and feel of the word date, that cell that date is in other words. The properties I want to use here, I want a dark gray background. Then I'm saying I want to manipulate the rows. For example, in this case, I want to grab the 5th row. So you can see nth child, 5. And I want to, do some formatting on that particular one. Gray color, blue. And then I want to do the 5th row, 5th cell in the 5th row. So in other words, that's the TD. That's the 5th cell in that row. I'm going to make it look a little different. And then I can just going to set the basic for all the rows like this. So let's run this and see what happens. And I'm going to hit Control Enter. What I notice is this one didn't seem to work. This one here didn't work. Background color yellow. All right. All right. So that one, maybe that got overwritten somehow. But notice the 5th cell in the 5th row got changed here. And you can see here's the 5th row getting that gray background color, and the blue is you can see every row has blue like this. So yeah, you basically have to play around with this to see which one get affected and which one is not being affected by this styling here. So anyways, that's another method you can use to style this. So the next thing I want to do, I want to grab the max and min, and also I want to grab the median value. I'm going to use it across all the columns, open, high, low, close. So in other words, when I look for the min, I'm not going to look for the min within each of those columns. I'm going to look for the min across all of those columns. Now what we want to do is we want to style it using these values here. So as you can see here, I'm creating this data frame, top 10 rows or the first 10 rows, and I'm styling it with a background gradient. And you can set this C map, which is basically, let me show you. I'm going to produce an error here so you can see it. So when you look here, down here, they list all these possible, they're like color charts, if you will. You go from maybe yellow to red to orange or something like that. So they have different values, and some of them have more colors, some has less. So you can set them by using this C map. So I'm going to run that, and I want to basically do the background gradient from the min of the mins, meaning the min of all of these columns here, and the max of all of those columns. That's what I loaded up here. So that's the min and the max number. So in other words, I don't have to actually type a number in and guess what it should be. I just grab the smallest and the largest across those columns. So that's how I'm going to base my gradient map on. So let me hit Control Enter. And as you can see, it produced based on that color mapping scheme. You can see here is 112, 25. And then it goes 113, so there's a little more yellow here, 114. And when it gets higher up, it gets more red, as you can see. So yeah, it's a nice way of styling your tables. All right, so that's the mapping. Here is a slightly different one. I'm going to highlight the max across this, and I'm going to set the color to be white. So let's see what that looks like. So here you can see it highlights the max here. So 126 was the max for the high column, 123 was the max for the open, and 117 was the max for the low, 118 for close. So it basically gives you the highest number within each one of those columns. So that's another one you can do. Here I'm basically doing a gradient again on the row this time, not the column. So I'm setting the axis to be 0. So now you can see it produces this chart. And again, I'm not going to dwell on this, but you can look at it a little more and figure out what's going on here. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to style my stock prices a little different if they're below 112, okay? Now, the median in this case happened to be 112, and that's why I'm saying 112 up here. But notice I'm referring to that V median that I generated above here. This one up here. You can see this one. So that's what I'm using for input here to do a cutoff, basically. So I'm going to return the properties if it's less than 112, in other words. And here you can see the properties. And again, I'm using this apply map. I'm using a lambda function, v, and you set the opacity a little less here, so it's not 100%. And then you check if v is less than the median, otherwise nothing. So this one refers to this function. This one simply do an inline function using a lambda expression. So let's see what that one looks like. It should be 114. You can see it here. I printed out the median. So median is no longer 112. It should be 114. My fault. Sorry about that. Okay, so all right, so you can see it here. It's actually a little more than 114. Say 0.8, and that's why this one shows up. Anyway, so you can set it up any way you want to. So that's another way you can use these styler objects. Here I want to compare open, high, low, close, and format the stock prices with 2 decimals. So there's nothing really new here. Let's just run it. Might be a little bit repetitious, but you can see here I'm running the highlight the max basically. So you can see this one, and here's the max, but it's the same numbers here, so both of them shows up. You can see it's slightly different formatting here. Okay, the last one then I want to show you is some styling for headers, index names, rows, and also create some kind of hover effect for each row as you hover over them. So what you can do here is, I'm doing it by row, but if you want it by cell, the hovering, you have type TD in here instead of TR. Okay, so as you can see, I'm gonna create one variable for hover, one for index names, and one for headers. And I'm using this selector. I'm looking for the headers when they're not equal to the index name, meaning that first column where the date is. I don't want to style that one. And here I'm styling the index name itself, the date. And I'm coloring that orange. So terrible colors here, guys, but it's more for the display more than anything than the color selection. Here I'm using the precision is 2. I'm setting the table styles, and I'm using a list of hover, index names, and headers. So this is another way you can style this. Let's hit Control Enter, and here you can see this whole thing. When I move my hover over the row, you can see here it changes like this. Like I said, if you want to just do the cell, you can just change this to TD. Let's run it again. And now you can see, now it's just the cell itself. This is what you can do in Colab. In a notebook, you can use the same stuff and get the same styling. So there's no point for me to show you the Jupyter Notebook, but it's the same thing there as you do here. So yeah, give it a go and work on some nice designs and some nice styling. So if you want to learn more about how to style this, I suggest you go to this web address, pandas.pydata.org, docs user guide, style HTML. And I hope you like this video, and I look forward to see you soon. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you like my content here. Thank you so much.